It was the first of two Eckler touchdowns in which Devin Bush made absolutely no effort on. And when I say no effort, I mean no effort. This is bad. His dad might call the radio station today. It was so bad. Look, there are times in which the fan base and people who follow a team, they yell and they scream about something and they really don't know what they're talking about. And it's amplified by, I heard this guy yelling and screaming, so I'm going to jump on board and be a bandwagoner, and I'm going to yell and scream because I heard somebody on the radio yelling and screaming, and it becomes fashionable to do that. And it just sort of creates and gains a life of its own. That's not the case with this. He is not just bad for being Devin Bush and where he was drafted as number 10 overall. He's a bad NFL inside linebacker right now. He's just not good. Schobert then was on the field. Spillane was on the field the drive thereafter. He did not see the field for about 8 or 12 plays, somewhere between 8 or 12 plays. He was awful. I don't know what the answer is, but the answer moving forward at some point has to be this guy getting benched. He hurts them.
The one that got me even more was the first one, which was the Eckler, I think, 4 or 5 yard touchdown.
That was the second one. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no. But that was the one that got me, and it was early in the game, and immediately, I think we all probably tweeted out the same video, right? As Collinsworth's breaking down the double block on Hayward, and I think it was Jared Cook pulled around from the outside in, came up through the hole, and met Bush. And then Bush didn't do anything.
It was inexcusable because he had zero awareness and even less fight.
He didn't realize Eckler was running right by him.
He didn't know where the play was. Then when he understood where it was, he didn't fight to get off his block. He just stood there. Look, we've hammered Devin Bush, and sometimes maybe it's overkill, and you're not trying to find a scapegoat. But if you're going to have any chance in that football game, if you're going to have any chance against the Lions to not tie them, you need good play from that inside linebacker position, and it's not like he's played up to where Devin Bush, again, is supposed to play. He's been bad comparative to the mean inside linebacker in the league.
It's just like I said on Friday. It's one thing to criticize Devin Bush for not making the big splash plays. Now we're at the point where he's not making the regular everyday plays. PFF's initial grade on his performance last night, the lowest to this point of his career. So that tells you
that's a pretty low bar to begin with.
Thank you, Jim. The guys, it would be different if we saw it in fits and starts. No, it's continually downhill now.
Jim, you ready for Buddy Johnson era to start?
No.
But what do you do?
And it's called into even Spillane is what it is, and that's what you have to do. But it's like we were talking about this even before Sunday night. We were talking about this last week. There was a time when we're wondering, well, why is Spillane playing? Why is Bush not playing? And then when Butler said that there are some things that Spillane does better.
Play football is one of them.
Yeah, right now I can't argue with that. And you're right about that. It was like he was a conscientious objector on that play, just standing there.
Well, and it gets called into contrast too when you see Schobert make a big play later, right? I mean, we've seen Spillane make big plays in the past. We've seen Schobert make a big play here in this regard, and I recall him having a big tackle earlier in a game where they were trying to hold on to a lead. And Bush isn't doing any of that. He's not doing any of it. Not even the big splash plays. Like I said, he's not even making the basic plays.
And if people want to say that, his knee's not fully, well, then don't play him.
Right.
There needs to be something seismic happen this week. Either a benching in totality or we find out that the guy's hurt and then you go ahead and you put him on IR. It can't be rolling into Sunday in the Bengals game, and it's just, okay, the game starts, and Devin Bush is out there to start at inside linebacker for the Steelers. That, to me, is the coaching staff. Keith Butler, Mike Tomlin, who allegedly calls the defense, they're derelict of duty if they've identified a problem, or if they haven't identified it, that's even worse. But at this point, they've had to have identified it as Devin Bush being problematic to the cause, right?
Yes.
Because everyone else has. Even the people who, even if you don't know the play calls, like his dad says we should know in order to criticize him. But if they've identified the problem much as we have and they don't make a change, then it becomes a problem that's not the player problem, it's the coach problem. And if something doesn't change for Cincinnati, it's a big coach problem. He's absolutely horrible. He's horrible. He's not good enough to start. He's now good enough maybe to be in the rotation, but he's not good enough to start. And I'll say it right now, and I don't care who it makes mad. He's showing no heart. He's showing no fight. he's showing no grit, and he's showing no want.
Okay.
He is a quitter, and that's what Devin Bush shows me on the football field. He quits when things go down, when things aren't looking good. Cam Hayward is a guy. If I'm Cam Hayward, I look at Devin Bush, and I don't even look at us as contemporaries. I'm thoroughly upset that I'm on the same unit as Devin Bush because he's not giving 1/1,000,000th of the same effort.
Let's spin it from the short term into the long term very quickly, because we had this conversation about other parts of this team. We've talked about it with the quarterback at length today. If Devin Bush is this, if this is what he is, first of all, you're not picking up the fifth-year option this offseason. You talk about sitting him, yeah, that's in the immediate short term, that's what you do.
It's that they overdrafted him.
Yeah.
What was he going to do when they called on the phone? Say no?
Yeah.
Right.
There's a big problem with scouting and development.
But what you're talking about, and in your opinion, that if he's not trying or if he's a quitter, as you just said it, that is his problem.
That is, you're right.
And I'm not going to go quite that far. But man, it was just disappointing to see him stand there and not try to fight off a block. Isn't that just basic football?
Yes.
I don't know.
There's a lot of guys who seemingly have less athletic ability that try a lot harder than Devin Bush. And I'm not making Devin Bush out to be someone with, that's one of the greats athletic ability wise. But watch Sam Mills, that was smaller than him. Fight off guys bigger than him and make a career, a living, forge greatness out of fighting off blocks much the same way. And Devin Bush gets stock blocked by an offensive lineman and just stands there and acts like he's doing a waltz with them.
Not even an offensive lineman on that first Eckler touchdown, a tight end pulling up through the hole.
It's tough to watch.
One of the guys that he was drafted to combat against.
And I don't need to know what play was called to know. No. I don't need to know his assignment.
There's no play call for stand there and get blocked and not try to get off and at least make an arm tackle.
Right.